Hey everybody, we're back. Sorry about that. We had a little bit of a bug. Apparently running a stream for 3 hours can cause some issues on a computer, but we're back. And thank you for being patient. We really appreciate that from you guys. So to get the discussion back on track, we're going to go right into our final, last but not least, division. It's Curie. Evan, take it away. Do we have anybody we know on Curie?
There's this little team somewhere up north called 1114 that some people may say is the best team in the world right now, and they are on Curie. They're also joined by 148 from down south, who some other people may say is the best team in the world right now. So I know when 148 initially revealed their robot, a lot of people basically said, well, they're going to win the world championship. And everybody's like, whoa, 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 we haven't seen 1114 yet. And then 1114 debuted their robot, and everybody was like, nope, they're going to win the world championship. And then they ended up on the same division together, and now it's really just a question of who's going to seed first, and do they actually pick each other? And then, is there anybody else on this division that's really strong enough to take it to them? And honestly, I don't think so. It drops off. I mean, you've got two of the best teams in the world on the division, and after that, I mean, there's some really strong teams. We got 3309 Firebots. They were Vegas finalists and Arizona West winners, and they're a landfill robot, great landfill robot. You got 701 the RoboVikes, who pulled a triple finalist showing this year. Central Valley, they lose to 254 and 1678. Davis, they lose to 1678 and 118, and then Lone Star, they lost to 118 and 624.
The circle is now complete.
The circle. Well, now they just, unfortunately, 624 isn't on their division, but and then we got some other interesting teams like 610, the Coyotes from Canada. One finally for the first time actually played with 1114, but they do single totes, sometimes two, and they cap. But they debuted a 4-can auto grab. So they're one of these role-playing robots that could really shake things up. Ultimately, though, I really don't see anybody being able to give the 1114-148 Alliance a run for their money. And looking at the match schedules, I don't see any reason for one of them not to be number one seed. It's a pretty big drop.
Actually, kind of to touch on that, Naveed, your number man. Do you have the numbers on that out of curiosity? Because I'm actually really interested to see what these tell us.
It's impressive.
So looking at it, with all of the iterations through Monte Carlo, 1114 has an average rank of 1.0089. Coming up pretty close behind them, 148 at 2.28 roughly. And then there's a fairly big gap after that. It's about an average rank of 1.5 for the Firebots, 3309. So it's going to be tough if either of them get up there, and I know a lot of people have already speculated that it's either the 1114-148 or the 148-1114, and they look like they're in a great position to do that.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple, right? If you're the best landfill robot in the game, and you can empty the landfill, you don't need another landfill robot. If you're the best human player robot in the game and you can empty the human player stations, you don't need another human player robot. So why don't you just go ahead and put up 8 stacks and call it a day?
Yeah, sounds like a good plan. Let's just do it. Like I always say, just win.
Just win. Well, I think the real question is there any reason for 1114 not to pick 148 or vice versa? And the one assumption that goes into this, is that 1114's can grabber or 148 has a cheesecake, right? They can't use it themselves because of the tether.
Alfred.
Not even Alfred, right? Like
Robin.
Batman and Robin. Because of Robin sitting at the human player station, they can't set up in a place on the other startup zone to do a can grabber. Now I expect them to have the capability to cheesecake a can grabber onto somebody else because this is 148 and they would not go into championships without the possibility of forming their own alliance that can't get center cans. But 1114, what they've shown has not been the ridiculous hyperspeed. Initially they had the fishing poles, the hoops, that was designed effectively for teleop. At Windsor, Essex, they finally showed something that would go into the holes of the cans and pull them off. But is it fast enough for Einstein? What we've seen so far, probably not. What we know of 1114, they will have something. But that's the going in assumption, right? If for some reason they go in and 1114 seeds first and they don't have the fastest can grabbers on the division, they need to really think hard about whether or not they can pick 148, knowing that 148 themselves cannot do can grabbing. That's the big question. If somebody else on the division has faster can grabbers than 1114,
I think too they have to look at. I mean, if we're going to make the assumption that 1114 and 148 end up on the quarterfinals of Einstein, and they want to win the world championship, they have to look around and make sure that somebody else isn't going to walk in there with a 4-can auto grabber. That's amazing. Because that would also it doesn't matter how many stacks they put up, because if they only have 3 cans, they may not be able to keep up with a 254 match who has a 4-can grabber.
Yeah.
So that brings up an interesting point. Do you think that if you're on those teams, this is kind of, we're taking multiple leaps of faith here to say that we assume these guys are going to seed one, they're going to pick each other and all this. It's not that big of a leap of faith, but it is a leap. If you're these guys, do you spend a lot of time looking at other divisions to figure out what your actual final plan is?
Absolutely. And this is a practice that's been going on for a long time. Of at least when you're starting to get into after alliance selection, starting to get into the deep part of the playoffs, is you start going and looking at who else is coming through and what their capability is. But I don't think 1114 is going to be necessarily scouting the other divisions first. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me as a use of resources. I think they're going to be videoing maybe the fastest can grabbers on the other divisions, but that's probably about it.
That seems reasonable. Okay, because that's really their weak spot, I suppose, right? So Evan and everyone else too. Who do you think who would be a good? Who else would complement this alliance? We talked about this before, but if you've got 2 of the best robots in their roles, what do the last roles do?
This is the classic alliance, and really the antithesis, I'd say, of Carver is if you get the 1114, 148 alliance, there literally aren't any more stacks to make. Like, if they're doing their best, they're putting up 8 stacks, and the human loading station is empty, and the landfill is empty except for those upside down totes. So for that 3rd robot, and maybe even the 4th robot, there's really nothing for them to do except be simple enough and underweight enough to have a can burglar attached to them.
Yeah. They're going to be looking for one thing and one thing only, and that's somebody to get the other 2 cans.
Well, there are 2 stacks. There are 2 more stacks up in upside down totes and totes sitting on the step that haven't moved.
Right.
So maybe they would like to have 2 more stacks.
Yeah, that's a good. There's definitely more stacks there, but with a maximum of 7 totes or 7 containers, if you're putting up 7 stacks with 7 containers, you can't lose.
I really see.
Porque no los dos.
I mean, honestly, I really see their last robot, and keep in mind that they get to pick 2, right? There's a 4th robot here as well, and so maybe they pick one that does each and have the ability. But I think that last robot, especially the one that they're going to be running in most of the matches, is really going to be a lot like Skunkworks Alliance had at district championships, which is a utilipick, right? They're going to grab the cans off the center, and they're going to make sure that those cans are out of the way and in a position for their alliance to maximize with low risk the number of cans that end up on stacks.
Additional question is 1114 has been known to tether their ramp to another robot. Now, if they're picking a 3rd robot specifically to put a can burglar on in an effort to get all 4, are they going to bother with their ramp? We know 148 has the ability to empty the human loading station, but I would personally feel more comfortable knowing that, oh crap, something broke on 148. Let's go empty it with 1114's robot instead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's definitely a good place for your fourth pick, your spare pick, right? Your backup team. We saw last year with the introduction of those teams that a lot of people use them kind of as backup robots. Like they would fill one of the roles if someone broke, and then everybody would shift up in the cycle positioning. And I think this year that's definitely for an alliance that good, it could be a good thing to have a backup, like somebody who can do the human player if somebody goes down.
I think that 5735, the Control Freaks out of Massachusetts, are an interesting pick for that because they have that beautiful wooden ramp that the totes are just going to fall on the floor, and 1114 could sit there and just make stacks. That would be awesome.
Right. That's pretty cool. That's what I imagine. Is just like just 1114 just sort of sitting on this because the robot's got a big old mouth on it too. But anyway.
Yep. And then they cheesecake 5735 to have a nice set of can grabbers, and then they just go back and sit there and wait for 1114 to empty the human player, the landfill, and then use their ramp to just feed them.
But we start running into that issue that we discussed last week too, where if you want to have a cheesecake grabber on somebody, you can't have a ramp. You don't get both. Because if you want to start in the landfill...
They are a ramp.
No, yeah.
Oh, whoa.
5735 is a ramp.
Whoa.
Yo, dog, heard you like ramps. That's why I am.
They're one of those robots that backs up to the human loading and the totes pass through.
Damn.
And then they've got, like the elevator that goes down and clips onto the totes. So if they just left that elevator up, they would act just like a simple, almost like an 1114 ramp.
Huh.
Yep.
They told me I could be anything. I chose to be a ramp.
And I think it'll be interesting. Especially the other thing is that with 148 tethered to the human player station, they could also tether potentially 1114's ramp to 148, given that 148 doesn't have Alfred anymore, so they probably have wait for it. So that's an additional option that would allow 1114 to go use the other human player station without needing a third robot at all in that case.
Well, yeah, except 1114's Batman robot picks up full stacks. They can't make the stacks themselves. So an 148's robot, Batman. So being tethered to 1114's ramp wouldn't exactly help them. Aside from freeing up 1114.
On both human player stations. One of them's got Batman, one of them's got 1114's ramp.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So 1114 can use their ramp, and 148 can use Batman. It'll be interesting. I don't know if 148 has the weight for it, but
yeah, definite possibility. It'll be interesting to see. And of all the divisions, I hope somebody that we haven't talked about ends up in the number 1 seed. Because I think that would be super sweet to see how the chips fall after that. Yeah, exactly. Where the teams go and what happens there. Because I always like seeing excitement, especially when it's not in my division.
We've seen it happen before. I think this year, with the way that the ranking system works, it's a little bit more difficult, right? Just because the 1114 has, and like 254 as well, they have the capability of scoring over 200 points by themselves. So if you're doing that, you're looking at an average score that's through the roof. It's really hard for anybody, even somebody with a really good match schedule, to come close to that. So that being said, robots do break, and things sometimes happen. 1114 started out, I want to say Windsor Essex with a 77-point match, and they ended up pulling themselves up to the number 1 seed. But stuff happens. That's why we play the matches.
It's true. Alrighty, well, I think that's more than enough talking about Curie. Before we end the show, let's go to question, Naveed. Question from the audience. Why don't you shoot it out to us?
Yeah, last one of the evening. All right, this question is from Ironic Deadbird, and it is, assuming a 2-2 split on center cans, will Einstein's scoring be decided solely on noodle throwing?
Ooh, that one's a good one. Can I go first?
Go
I
for
haven't
it.
gone first all season. Yay, I get to go first. I say no. I I think Noodles will play a part in it. I don't think it's going to be solely on Noodles. I think that somebody, if that happens, it's quite possible somebody will win because of the Noodles. But I think that, especially when you get to that level, there's going to be enough what we'll call naked stacks built, stacks without cans, that's going to be the primary way you differentiate those alliances.
Yeah, I think if you're splitting cans, it's just execution at that point, and what you're right now. It comes down to what's your third robot capable of, and are they doing something right? If you pull a robot that's able to actually make stacks of just totes from the human player station, that may be your ticket to moving on Einstein in quarters, given a split can scenario.
Or even better, if there's if it's something else that people haven't really talked too much about. Some people on Chief Delphi have, I know, is what happens if you end up with a robot getting immobilized as they're trying to grab cans. Like you end up with one person getting 2 cans, or maybe each person getting 1 can, and then 2 robots that are stuck in the landfill. That's going to throw a huge monkey wrench into anyone's plans, which I'm really eager to see. So
yeah, and that's another interesting thing, and a bit of a risk on the cheesecake, right? Is like let's say 1114 or 254 or whoever 987 cheesecakes their third robot, and they have them sitting over on the side of the landfill, and they get stuck on the cans, and all of a sudden they've blocked off access just by being stuck on those cans to half the landfill. Now it depends on who they're stuck to as to whether that's an advantage or not, but it will be really interesting. The can wars are a real thing, and it's probably going to decide some matches.
Yep. Actually, one of the things I saw somebody on Chief Delphi say, I don't read Chief Delphi in depth too often, but I did once. And somebody said, what do you think the scores on Einstein is going to be? What's the average score? And a number of people said it'll be some number of points to 0. And I think that somebody getting red card on Einstein is more likely this year than any other year previously.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I think that if there's a better chance of it now than there ever has been.
It's happened before.
Has it? When?
2007. There's a red card issued for 1270 knocking over 71 in first quarters.
Oh, those are matches that we weren't in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just trying.
You weren't paying attention, but I.
Oh hell no! I was trying to not freak out. Sorry, man.
Right. But it's been a long time, and they're pretty rare. So if it happens, it'll be a big deal.
Yep. Cool. Well, thank you for sending those questions to us. At the end of our show, we normally do shout-outs. We're saving our shout-out for Jamie. Jamie, who are you shouting out to this evening?
I get to shout out to Justin because I wouldn't have been able to have my data without him because I've been at Vex all day. And I also want to give a shout-out to all the teams that we did not mention tonight because it's crazy going to the World Championships and everyone knows everybody knows the big teams, and I know what it's like to not be a big team. So keep working. You'll get there. Don't give up.
Go out and prove us wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. With 600 teams, we wish we could say something about every single one of them. And if that's what you want, let us know. We'll have our 12-hour episode next year. But
yeah, with one less host.
Just one, huh?
But you're absolutely right, Jamie. And good luck to everybody going out to the championship this year. Before we end, though, we have a couple of closing matter to talk about. First off, Naveed, do you want to talk about the GameSense meet and greet / GameSense challenge?
Sure. I think Evan has a little bit more details on it, but I'm kind of excited for this challenge that we're putting out there for people. The 5-card challenge. Take it away,
Collect
Evan.
them all.
All right, cool. Yeah, I have more details because nobody's actually done anything with actually determining what exactly is going on. But here's what's going to happen.
It was your idea. It was your idea.
I know it was my idea.
We'll put it up on Delphi, too.
Yeah. So all 5 of us GameSense hosts, Stephanie included, are going to be at the World Championships this weekend. Come find us. I will be with 1983. Naveed will be with 1983 is on Newton. Francis will be with 190 on Newton as well. Ty is with 319. He's probably going to be the hardest to find because he's drive coaching. 319 on Tesla. Naveed is with 360 on Archimedes. And Stephanie will be with 1318 on Curie. And if you come and find one of us, we will give you a business card if you ask nicely. If you collect all 5, there is going to be a GameSense meet and greet sometime during one of the lunch breaks, probably on Friday. So there will be more information on our social media coming up shortly. On that note, follow us on social media. Come to us if you got all 5 business cards. We got some cool swag to hand out, and it'll be a really fun chance for all of us to meet you guys, the fans, in person. So yeah, really excited about that. Again, follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Francis has a brand new one to announce.
Yeah, actually, so 2 things. If you meet us, you can prove that we are in fact not Muppets. You can see us from whole body, not just the top half. But we've also I just got a new phone. So I downloaded this cool thing the kids do called the Snapchat. I'm going to take one right now, I think. Boop. All right, cool. Snapchat done.
It's like a selfie
follow
of
us.
this much of his face.
No. It was of the screen. It's of the screen. So follow us on Snapchat, where our username is FR. We'll make sure to take some cool videos and pictures and maybe a few selfies with some weirdos as we meet across the whole thing. It's a new experiment for us. I don't use Snapchat that often because my phone was terrible previous to this, but we'll see how it goes. I'm wicked excited to see it. So, all right, with that, we are reaching the 4-hour limit that our Skype call will allow us to have out and hang out. Thank you to everybody who watched the show, and big thanks to Jamie for coming on the show, especially this late at night, especially this far from home. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Maybe
Cool.
those lines are gone. You can jump on a roller coaster.
Yeah, there you go. Alrighty, well, with that, good luck to everybody at the championship. We hope you have a great time, no matter how well your robot does, no matter how many totes you score. Remember why we go to the championship, and it's not because to get points. It's not to get free swag from other teams. It's about corn dogs and fried dough, and I guess inspiration and stuff too. So, anyway, thank you guys so much. We're going to hopefully have a show of after the championship as well. But with that, sign off and see you guys in St. Louis. Bye-bye, everybody.